Hey, what's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And again, if it's your first time, welcome to the channel. Thank you for stopping by. Got our next video here doing some upgrades and repairs on the Escapod trailer. Today, we're going to be hard plumbing in a propane camp stove, and we're going to have to do a few modifications to make it work. So let's go take a look at what we got. So pretty much the heart of the cooking system is going to be this new camp stove that we picked up. We had a 2-burner Coleman stove, but it has that propane arm that sticks out and at an angle, and you run a 1-pound bottle off of them. Now you can get adapters to go to those to hard align them to a larger tank, like a 5 or 10-pound tank. However, they still use that bent arm, and with the tight quarters in the back of the galley, it was going to interfere with other things, and I wasn't going to be able to hard plumb it the way I wanted to. So did a lot of researching, and there really were very few stove options that were still pretty wide, so you could fit 2 decent-sized skillets or pots on there, and then that had a hard line in for plumbing, and so on. So I identified this Camp Chef Ranger 2, and the only downside was they were out of stock everywhere. But I just got lucky, and there happened to be somebody up in Colorado Springs who had one brand new in the box for sale. Saved 80 bucks, and we got ourselves a stove. So we need to get that mounted in there, which I'll touch on that in a second because that's going to take some work, unfortunately. Beyond that, we have the plumbing that's going to have to be run in order to get this in there permanently, so we're not having to hook it up every single time we hit camp. So coming off of the camp stove, we're going to have a 90-degree elbow here. This is going to allow us to shoot our line straight back as opposed to coming out 90 or perpendicular to the camp stove, because it's going to hit our drawer system. So we're going to run this 90 into a flexible hose. This hose is going to run back behind the camp stove, and it's going to end up poking through the wall of the camper. We've got a 3/8 flared fitting to 1/4-inch NPT, which is then going to go into our bulkhead, which this is the part that's going to be going through the wall of the camper. Now, this isn't wide enough to go through the full wall of my camper. You'll see here, not long enough, but I couldn't find an option long enough. So the outside piece of plywood on the camper is 3/4 inch thick. So it will sandwich that piece just fine, and then we'll have to do a counter bore on the inside so we have access to that nut and washer. So that's the inside part of the system, and on the exterior, we're doing a quick connect fitting. So again, we've got the quick connect fitting to 1/4-inch NPT, which will thread into our bulkhead, and that'll be permanently mounted there. And I'm going to tuck it in as close as I can, in between the fender and the propane tank mount, so that there's a limited risk of it getting bumped. Then we have the quick connect fitting female side, which will be attached to a 1/4-inch NPT to a 3/8 flare fitting, which will then connect to our hose that has a female 3/8 flare fitting, and this runs through a regulator to the propane tank. And we're going to be sealing it all with the yellow thread tape. You want to make sure you're not using the white thread tape, as it's not rated for gas usage. So that's it. Pretty simple. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous, because I got to drill a hole through my camper wall. Make sure we get that sealed up all right. So we got the stove here, and I do have to comment that I think the build quality, just initial thoughts, very nice. It's cast, I think, aluminum top, which is going to help cut down on some weight. The burners are actually pretty recessed, and we'll get some extra shots showing you the stove itself. But the burners are recessed down into the stove quite a ways, and you've got the sidewall sticking up pretty far. So they're pretty good at having this pretty much built-in wind protection. So the camp stove does fit into this drawer location. Now, I've already, in order to get it just this close, this trim piece that runs up under here that has the latch for this drawer handle, had to remove that. And even still, we are not passing height-wise. We still need a good 1/2 inch to just barely clear, but I'll probably do a little bit more so we're not cutting it very close. So what do we need to do? This is where I'm not in love with the solution, but I haven't really come up with anything better. So first we're going to pull the drawer face off because there are two knobs that stick here and we obviously need access to those. So I'm going to have to cut down the drawer face to allow access to those knobs. That's step one. Step two, in order to get the vertical height clearance that we need, the best solution I came up with was we're going to pull this drawer out and we're going to end up actually having to cut down the top of it. So this is going to be a thinner drawer face at least. And then the inner piece here we're going to drop down, and then the drawer slides for this top drawer we're going to drop down by about 3/4 of an inch or so. That should give us enough vertical clearance for the camp stove to fit in here, slide in, slide out, close, and everything. We will no longer have our latch, so I might come up with just like a magnet system on the back to help keep it in place so it doesn't want to slide out while we're driving. So that's the plan. Again, I don't love it, but it's kind of what we got to do. So let's get these drawer faces pulled off and get working on dropping down those drawer slides. I think if we drop the drawer down 7/8 of an inch, that should give us about 3/8 of an inch or so, 3/8 to a half inch of clearance above the camp stove, which I think will be good. So we've got just a little 2-inch scale here, so we're going to come down 7/8 of an inch. Mark that. So now we will just pull this piece out. We will drop the bottom to where it's at our new marks, buzz it back in, and then we'll pull the drawer slides out. And it looks like they're spaced off just a hair from the top of this. So we'll match that spacing, drop the drawer slides down, and then the top drawer will be relocated into its correct position. We'll double check clearance with the camp stove before we move any further. Okay, before I went ahead and screwed this crossbar in, I did want to do just a quick fit check to make sure that the low drawer sides still clear under there, and we're good. We got about a 1/4 inch clearance. In case you can't tell, I'm on dad duty right now. Moment of truth. Good deal. All right, good news. All I had to do was pretty much clean off the old grease and grime from in there and relube them. And now, muy delicioso. Muy delicioso. Delicious. All right, thought about it for a while, and Mary actually ended up having a pretty good idea. What I really don't like is the asymmetry of these handles, and then trying to make the cutouts around that, and then dealing with this hole that existed for the handle. So I think what we're going to do is maintain symmetry via the face frame, or the drawer face. So what we've got is we've come in 3.5 inches, going to come down at 45-degree angle, straight across, and then back up at a 45-degree angle and over. So the wood's going to be perfectly symmetrical, and then just the handles for the stove are going to be offset. And then we will no longer have a handle in the center. You'll just reach in and grab around this lip, so from the opposite side like this, and pull out. And I think that's going to be pretty good. I think it's about the best we could come up with. So let's head over to the bandsaw and get this buzzed out. There we have it. Definitely have some cleanup to do, so we're gonna head over to the belt sander. I'll get that taken care of, and we'll get this reattached to the drawer. And then we will just need to throw on some sort of clear coat finish on the top to protect that wood. All right, that's what we're left with. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think it'll be all right. I might potentially bevel those edges back so it's not a straight edge sticking up here and there. But we are in business. Enough so to where we can move on to the next step, which is drilling our hole, first locating it and then drilling our hole through the wall so we can get the hardline plumbed in so we can run the tank. Okay, I only get really one shot at this, so I know I need it to be all the way, just about all the way back as possible in order for the hose to clear the back of the stove, because there's essentially like an 1/8 of an inch gap behind the drawer face and where this wall is. And the stove comes maybe like a finger width or two in from the back of the drawers. So it gives us a pretty tight window, and I'm thinking I want to err on the side of putting it up higher because the top of the stove bevels forward at the back edge. So that'll give us the best chance for as much clearance as possible. So I've got our spot marked out. I pretty much just came in here, put the fitting not all the way up against the wall, but back just a little bit. And I think I might actually drill just on this side of that mark that I have and up just about as high as I want to go. So we're just drilling a pilot hole now. It's obviously going to pop out the front. All right. Here we have it. There's our pilot hole. So now we'll get the appropriate size drill bit and plunge back through. I think my plan is to go in just deep enough to where this fits all the way in flush.
Just the tip?
Just the tip, because then from the inside, I'm gonna have to do a counter bore with a larger diameter so that we can fit the lock ring and the nut in there, because that's obviously a larger diameter. All right, we're through the aluminum. Try and clear out some of those shavings. I didn't realize the shavings are going to drop down in between. So I'm going to grab the vacuum real quick and see if I can't suck out some of those loose shavings, and then when I drill the rest of it, make sure I press tight against the skin. Okay. And I'm using this GeoCell ProFlex RV. Never used it before, but it seemed to have good reviews on the interwebs. I'm going to run a little bit just on the inside as well. Popping the washer on. Now we'll get the nut put on. Man, when they said that's some sticky shit, they meant it. Okay, there we have it. we have one of our 1/4 inch NPT to 3/8 inch flare fittings. So this is going to thread into the back side of that bulkhead fitting. And you only need to put tape, and again we're using the yellow tape, not standard white Teflon tape. So you only need to put the yellow tape on the NPT side. The flare fitting side does not need tape. We'll get that threaded in there. And that takes a 3/4 inch socket. Run that down till it's snug. And then we can grab our hose fitting. We can thread that on. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and install the male end on our quick disconnect. Again, we've got our yellow tape on there. All right, the last fitting we really need to pay any mind to is going to be this, again, 1/4 inch NPT to 3/8 inch adapter to go from our hose on the propane tank to our quick connect fitting. Just thread it onto our hose. Try and position it so this lever's on top when it's installed. Just due to the shape of the hose, it's pretty stuck in its rigidity. So this is going to go in there like that. And then this is going to be just a little bit higher. Rotate that. Okay. And this happened to be perfect timing because our propane tank just arrived. Let's strap her in and see. Like a glove. Hook up the tank. And check out our quick connect, which that ended up sideways. So I might adjust that. Just because I'm anal. Should have no effect on its functionality, but there we go. I don't know if you can see that, but now this will be nice and horizontal and level and easy for us to shut off if we need. Now we get to play around a little bit more inside here to see how everything is actually going to function. What I mean by that is I have no clue how this hose is going to want to coil up in there when I go to shut the door, or shut the drawer rather. Not what you want to see. Alright, I'm going to have to play with this a little bit. Because when I have the stove in the position I want, which is here, and I have it all the way out, the tension in the hose wants to pull it back some. And then when I go to press it all the way in, it binds up on the hose because it's blocking it from closing all the way. I'll be back when I have a solution. Okay, believe me when I tell you, but that took entirely way too much effort to get to work properly. It's really just me trying to work into the confines of this camper that I have. You hopefully won't have similar issues. Let me give you a quick rundown of what we had to do to get this all to work. Step 1. The gas fitting coming out of the stove from the factory comes out on the right side. Well, I was getting way too much binding in there. I couldn't configure the hose in such a way that it would want to close. So fortunately, you can switch that pipe around on the Camp Chef Ranger 2. So I shot it out the left side, and that allowed me to be able to pretty much configure the hose in a way that it would allow it to close. For the most part, it would close most of the way, and then that last like 3/4 of an inch, it just really didn't want to go. And what would happen is the tension built up in the hose would want to cause the drawer to pop open. Conversely, when it was fully opened, the drawer would want to retract a little bit, again because of the tension in the hose. Solution: having a method that keeps the drawer locked open and locked closed, and the easiest way to do that is with a set of locking drawer slides, just like we have on the camp stove here. They lock in position and they lock out. Now, I ordered a set. They said they were the same thickness as the ones that I had. So I spent hours trying to get the damn drawer slides to work and just couldn't do it. Finally pulled some dimensions and discovered that they were a little bit thicker than the drawer slides I had, which means my drawer was getting wedged. Again, long story short, I pulled the drawer out, completely disassembled it, trimmed down the drawer face, trimmed down the sides, trimmed down the back and the bottom, reassembled that shit together so we had a complete drawer again. And then these drawer slides also have these same kind of locking tabs on the side, so I had to make a relief cut here so that we could have access to those. Let me give you a quick rundown of what it looks like and kind of what the setup will be like once we get to camp and how quick and easy it's going to be to use. Get to camp, ready to do some cooking, and just pull out our hose. I don't want this permanently installed because it's definitely a big snag hazard. And this is super quick. Just throw it onto the tank, and then we've got our quick connect fitting, which we're just going to pop onto the male side on the camper. Open the gas, come over, pull out the drawer. Again, it locks in its open position. I do have to just manually put the hose down over here on the side just to keep it off the burner top. Also, one quick note, one of the benefits of sliding it over is I've now created more distance between the burner and this wall, which is going to be good for mitigating heat over here. I still may put up a shield. It'll take just a second to work through the lines. And there we go. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with the end result. I'm gonna have to play around with it with some skillets or pots on here and see what the heat situation is like over on this wall to see if I feel the need to add some sort of shield. But for now, we're gonna call that project done. If you guys are tackling a similar project like this, throwing in a camp stove into your camper, feel free to drop any questions you might have down below, and I will do my best to help you guys out. And again, I will drop links to all the items that I bought down in the description below in case you're trying to follow along and build a similar setup. But for now, appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.